What I'm going to talk to you today is, as it says on the tin, really, some top tips for helping you to win awards. Some of it is kind of more wholesale changes to the way you think about your approach to writing awards. Some of it are more kind of smart tips that I think you can do quite easily to make your awards stand out and be better. And just to say, really, over the many years that I've worked in communications now, I've judged awards. I've also written lots and lots of awards, some that haven't been successful, many that have been nominated, and some that have also won. So I think this is kind of a bit of a mishmash of all of the things that I have learnt along the way, and hopefully it will help all of you. So I'm just trying to move my slides along, and that's not. This is why I always get you to do my slides, Dominic.
So maybe yeah, if you try the arrow.
Okay. There we go. Thank you. It's not my forte. Okay, so I'm going to start with number one, which is answering the question, which is kind of an obvious one. And I don't know, who remembers being at school and you learnt, you revised a certain subject, so you decide to answer the question with everything that you've learnt rather than what the examiner is actually asking you to do. And obviously you're not going to do very well if you do that. So it is absolutely vital to read the overall entry criteria, how many words that they require, and also the very specific criteria that you will have for this particular award entry. So read that through and be absolutely clear that what you want to enter fits that criteria. So if you do start to try to shoehorn something in, just as you might have done all of those years ago with an exam, it isn't going to work, and it's not worth the time and effort of bothering. Think about a different awards to put your entry into. So that's my first top tip. Secondly, I just wanted to talk very specifically about behaviour change entries. I think these work, though, for all award entries, and particularly for those that a communications team might be entering on their own work rather than kind of work across the whole of the council, which you might sometimes be asked to do. And I think the first one about proving your success is the most important thing that I will say throughout this whole presentation, because if you can't prove the success of your campaign, then it isn't worth entering, as the judge will immediately throw it out. So that's really important. If it's too early to tell whether you've met your objectives, then just be patient and wait a year. However, if it is a campaign run by your communications team, then I think, and this comes back to this point about really sort of thinking about awards in a different way, there should be no excuses as to why you haven't got the data, because monitoring and evaluation can be built into the very beginning when you're planning your campaign. It's possible to evaluate your entry retrospectively. Of course, there's lots of different ways to do that, but it is much harder. So building in monitoring and evaluation at the very beginning, and I would use the Government Communications Service, the GCS evaluation framework, in order to do that. And I think it makes it much easier to prove your success when you come to the actual drafting of the award. Specifically for behaviour change campaigns, I think that if you can demonstrate that you've used some co-creation, that also plays really well with judges. So if you've tested your content or your marketing materials or your key messages on your audience group and you've gained some feedback and you've made some changes as a result, I think that's a really good thing. And it's not something that you're going to be able to do retrospectively when you come to your award. So maybe if you haven't done that this year, that's fine, don't worry about it. But when you're thinking about an award entry for next year, maybe plan that in from the very beginning. And finally, if you're drafting an entry to a behaviour change campaign, I would also think about demonstrating that you have some knowledge of behaviour change frameworks. So you're not just using kind of an Oasis campaign planning tool, but you're also looking at some of the things that Dominic teaches and talks about in his webinars, like East or Combi, which Dominic can talk a lot more about. Okay, so this is one for Darren, really. Be kind to the judge. I don't think everyone always realizes that the person who is judging might be judging up to 30 awards. So they are not going to sit down and read everything in absolute detail. They're going to initially, I think, probably skim over. And then if something really catches their eye and they think, wow, this looks good, then they're going to read it in a lot more detail. So think about that when you're drafting it. Again, go back to kind of making sure that you're looking at the criteria for the award entry, and you're formatting this in that criteria. So it's easy for the judge to pick out the important bits. Be concise, don't waste words, get to the point quickly. It's not a whodunit where you kind of reveal all at the end. Reveal up front that you've managed to reach your objectives. I think that's really good. Sometimes even just state that in your summary, so that judge can see immediately, oh, this is a successful campaign. It's worth me really kind of reading it fully. And I like to bullet point and underline things, and I think that just makes it easy. So yeah, I think some really important points there to think about when you come to actually writing it. So my fourth point about the cherry on the cake, I think there's a lot of things that you can do which will help your award to stand out from other people's awards, where they might have also reached their objectives and you've reached your objectives. So what's the difference between the two? So things like having, if you've done it in partnership, you might have a quote from your partner about how you work together. That can be really helpful. If you have an advocate quote, so that might be the leader of the council, sort of linking it back to the vision of the council and how your award has helped the council to kind of move forward for its corporate plan. It might be that you also, and I think this works really well, you're able to find a case study where the piece of work has actually helped that person. So I know you're often very limited on word count, but if you can just have a few paragraphs from a resident who's been helped by that piece of work, I think that can elevate it to such a degree, and it's really important. And again, coming back to that point about co-creation, and having demonstrating that you've co-created it with your audiences, I think is really important as well. All of that, you do all of those things and it really starts to stand out from other people's awards. Okay, so finally, this really is all about the planning and really giving yourself enough time. Again, how many of us have been asked to write an award entry on the day of the deadline or the week of the deadline, and you really are only ever going to be able to do something in that case where you're just sort of covering the surface of it and you're not really able to do it justice. So think about it from the moment that the award entries open and you're looking at the criteria and thinking about what you're going to enter. And then you've got plenty time to talk to other members of staff, to talk to your data teams, to gather the right information that proves that it has actually been successful. And a final point I would make about this, I also think that if you're going to do awards really well, let's actually turn the whole process on its head. And rather than look for an award to enter into a particular awards, why not think about what are the sort of 3 key things that our council wants to become well known about this year that we've done really, really well. And from the beginning of your financial year, have those topics in mind for all of the different awards that are coming up and enter them. Rather than and then what basically happens is you'll have an award entry from the first awards that you've entered, and you can use that again and again and again, just changing it for the criteria of the next award. And I think by doing that, you help to build the reputation of the organisation around certain things that are really important to you. It might be that you're struggling to recruit in social care, but you're actually doing some really great things. So why not enter into lots of social care awards to demonstrate to people who might want to come and work for your organisation that you're actually really great. So hopefully all of that makes sense, but I think it's just about thinking about it in a different way. Okay, that's it from me.
Thank you, Lindsay. Some really, really useful tips there. And I think that kind of what you were saying just now about planning is so important, and having that kind of that time to plan, think about what it is that you're going to do, and also particularly around what you're saying about humanising it, having case studies, having that kind of, I suppose, that sort of narrative, and also that really important point about making sure you've got the evaluation as well. So I am just going to, sorry, I'm just doing all the logistics of spotlighting everyone. So very exciting now to hear from Danielle, whose campaign Little Heroes won the Behaviour Change Award last year at the Unawards, which turned, I think this is right, turned around a post-COVID drop in attendance of 2.4% into a 2.9% increase. A really, really impressive result, which resulted in thousands of school days regained. It's an absolute masterclass in how to change behaviours. So Danielle, over to you.
Thank you. And also I want to say thank you to Lindsay, because to be honest, I thought I won because of a fluke, and you've just made me see that it wasn't a fluke, that I actually included a lot of that in my award submission. So thank you for that. Very useful. I'll just share my screen to make sure everyone can see that before I continue. Are we on? Yeah, perfect.
Yeah, all good.
Perfect. Right, so welcome to Little Heroes. First of all, I'm just going to talk through the 3 things that I feel has made this campaign a success. It's won multiple awards, so it won 2 awards in the Comms 2.0 Unawards last year, which was obviously this category, the Behaviour Change, and also Most Creative. And it was also highly commended in the LGC Awards as well. And I think it's because of these 3 reasons mainly. It works. End of. It's changing behaviours, and it's also raising awareness not only in Staffordshire but across the UK. There's been other local authorities and companies reach out to me to hear more about this campaign, not only about school attendance but about children's mental health as well, which you will see as I take you on the journey. The EASE framework is key. So for those of you that are unfamiliar with that, it's easy to understand, it's attractive, it's social, and it's timely, which I think is crucial for a lot of campaigns, but especially for Little Heroes and my target audience. It's also making a real difference and empowering children to attend school and supporting their mental health. So that's kind of the 3 things I'd like you to take away from Little Heroes, if nothing else at all. So I will take you on its journey. So where did it all begin? It all began with a counsellor coming to me and saying we need to increase school attendance across Staffordshire. that was it. That was the brief, which I'm sure a lot of you can be familiar with when you get a very vague brief like that and you think, where do I start? So we have a look at what's already out there. We saw that there was a drop in attendance across the UK. It wasn't just in Staffordshire. I've got 2.3% here, but I must have put 2.4 in the submission. But I'm going to stick with 2.3 because it makes me sound a little bit more impressive. So attendance in Staffordshire schools was down by 2.3%. And the reasons for this was because children were missing school because of mild illness and mild anxiety. We could have just done the simple thing of sharing the messages that were already out there, but they weren't landing well with parents or with the media, and it wasn't actually making a difference. So we wanted to do something different in Staffordshire. We wanted to support the students where possible and the parents too, just to make it easier for them to attend school and support their well-being while doing that. So the objective then turned to support primary school children to attend school every day, because we looked at how do we kick off a school attendance campaign, and we thought, let's start from the bottom. Let's start from key stage 1, and then we'll slowly tweak it, going from age group to age group to make it adaptable, because there is no one size that fits all for this type of campaign. So welcome little heroes. So not just a cute name, but something that, like I said earlier, was easy to understand, attractive, social and timely. So HERO stands for here, every day, ready, on time. A perfect message that landed very well with our Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 students across Staffordshire. Something that was very catchy and easy to understand, paired with 2 iconic Pixar style characters. Apologies about the slides. So what is the Little Heroes campaign? It has 2 parts. So we've got the Little Heroes campaign, which is the Little Heroes element, sorry, which is the fun motivational messaging that you will see on the left that I've just ran through. But as the barriers were also about mild anxiety, we also had the helpful heroes element of the campaign as well. So the more gentle messaging and tools to support children's emotions. And together, the 2 sides of the campaign are making children feel more confident about attending school. So schools told us that getting children into school every day can be tough for some families, and many are facing real barriers. And to tackle it, we teamed up with educational psychologists and our EPSA, which is emotionally based school avoidance. So we used the teams across the council and the skills that we had already, along with trialling the campaign with 19 primary schools that helped shape the campaign as well. I stick with the figure 19 because it sticks in my head. I was asked to get 20 primary schools on board, and they're always too busy. Schools are too busy to help, so I'm told. So I thought, well, how are we going to get all these schools involved in this if I can't even get 20 to support me with the campaign? But I'm very, very proud to say that over 80% of primary schools across Staffordshire are now on board and supporting this campaign. They're part of the campaign, and they're running it in their schools, and it is genuinely making a difference. So that little 19 figure of just seeing the campaign in action has then led to this success. But I would say that the trial with those schools was key, because working with that small group, we were able to send out a campaign kit, which I will show you an example of. So we had the posters, we had railing banners, we had certificates, stickers, cardboard cutout characters, as well as a Helpful Heroes booklet, packed full of mindfulness activities for children to take control of their worries, and with the key message of every children worries, so they feel empowered to do some of these mindfulness activities. Some were already being done with some mental health nurses, etc., but we wanted everything to be in one place, all based under this heroic theme. And with those 19 schools, we worked very close with them to say, like, what is it that's worked, and what is it that sorry, I'm just seeing some of the messages come through. I'll do my best to answer those later on. So, sorry, I've just lost my train of thought. Yeah, so we worked very closely with these schools to kind of feedback on what materials worked and what didn't. So then we knew what to then launch in the wider campaign when we went out to all schools. I think in the initial one, we had things like pencils, which were actually quite pricey, but it just wasn't needed. And what was needed was more pages in the Helpful Heroes booklet. So that was something that was a huge hit with the children, and it was well received by parents and teachers as well, saying the kids are really engaged with this. It was initially a 12-page booklet, and then we increased that to a 20-page just because of the high demand, and the children were asking questions of why does my body do that? Why do I feel this way? And that was just amazing to me to see just how engaged they were, and thought, if they've got those questions, let's put that in there. If they're having trouble with this activity, let's put something in there to support them further. So yeah, we were just able to do that by having that engagement with the schools, of understanding what was needed, and not just including more posters that cost money, but actually including resources that will make a difference to the children. Like I say, after that, alongside the stickers, the booklets were the biggest hit. And yes, we now have over 80% of primary schools signed up to the Little Heroes campaign. And just a few photos for you to see Little Heroes in action when it launched last year. So it launched last September in primary schools, which, as you can see, was very timely. Perfect opportunity to introduce at the start of the school year. It's also had national recognition with media coverage, so it's been on BBC Midlands Today, and it's also been recognised in Ofsted reports as well, with Little Heroes being a reason of increased school attendance, and children just feeling calmer at school, with improving their mental and emotional well-being. A few campaign outcomes as well. So children are now taking control of their own well-being and doing some of these exercises that are in the books on their own. As you will probably have clocked earlier, one of the most popular ones was the 5-finger breathing, which many adults and many children are familiar with, but I just kind of created it into almost like a Marvel themed hand, so then children felt empowered to be able to do that exercise, that it was really cool to do. So yeah, they were doing that in classrooms whenever they felt like that they needed a moment to just calm down. So they've been spotted doing activities like that at home in the playground without actually being asked to do them, which is fantastic to know that the activities they're learning is actually resonating and sticking in their mind. It's also sparked a real culture shift with parents, staff and pupils all having that shared responsibility of attendance and punctuality. Kids, I've heard anecdotes of children waking their parents up ridiculously early because they want to get their sticker. So they would get a sticker when they were on time every day. So yeah, apologies to some of those parents, and I probably do owe some mums a big cup of coffee. But we're also helping parents support their children as well, because some of those barriers would be like quite mild, that they didn't know where to start with some of those conversations about mental health, because it wasn't that severe to go to the GP, and it was okay, what do I do when they're just feeling a little bit worried? And just by having these booklets, it's that engagement tool that they can sit with their parent or they can sit with their teacher and just talk about that worries are normal and this is what we can do about them. And just some statistics for you. I'm more of a visual person than a stats person, but I appreciate that they are very helpful with with data, and obviously winning the awards as well. So 85% of the schools said the campaign was having a positive impact at their school. 66 said that they had an increase in school attendance. 56% said they had an increase in arriving on time, and 73% said they found the Helpful Hero booklets the most beneficial. Whereas this initially started as a school attendance campaign, as you can see, it was the Helpful Heroes booklets and the mental health side of the campaign that has been really driving this. So now we are in Little Heroes round 2, as we are in September. So this is now landing in schools at the moment, and we've been able to put again the focus. We've still got the little here, we've still got the stickers, you've still got all the motivational messages, but we've been able to put the funding more towards Helpful Bear. So that is the latest engagement tool, and with the emotional wellbeing side, which again the children are absolutely loving. And again, I did a trial with a school to make sure that that they understood who Helpful Bear is, what he does, before then rolling it out to the rest of Staffordshire. So yeah, I would just say do a trial, engage with your audience. It's amazing when you can engage with kids, because they will tell you straight if something if they don't like something. But yes, Helpful Bear will hopefully be making a big difference in round 2, and I will definitely put it forward for another award this year as well.
Gonna say really excited to hear all about round 2, and definitely put it forward for more awards. And it was just, I think I was just making a few notes on some of the things you were saying, and I think it was just so interesting. We'll go to the questions in a second, how that kind of one behaviour change led to other things, so how that kind of knock-on effect around mental health and things like that, which you often find with behaviour change that you might not necessarily predict, which is really useful. So many other tips, but also I really like the thing about kind of trialing it first, and I think that's the thing that sometimes I think we've got to launch the whole campaign, but actually just trialing it first is a great way, especially if you haven't got lots of money to prove a concept. So just going to go to some of the questions. I think you answered the question about how many schools are using it, but a question from Stephen Moore, and you're going to really like the answer to this one. So Danielle, did you have the Disney style characters and overall look and feel created in-house or pay an agency?
I did it all myself, well, with a little help of AI. So if you're an AI lover, you'll be a fan. If not, then, but at the end of the day, I made it all myself, just by using the right prompts with Bing Create.
Yeah, which is it's such a great thing. Never realised that was possible. So, which leads on neatly to the questions. Next question from Sasha, which is, can I ask how you got around the Pixar copyright issue? And we could delete this part of the recording if need be.
No, that's fine. Because it's AI, we looked into it, and there are no copyright issues. Because you can't do that against AI at the moment anyway. So, but if you're also talking about the like the brand style, we've got the head of brand in our team, and I just make sure everything was ran past her, and making sure that as long as we used our colours and aligned it with our brand, then it was all good to go. And it was key to the campaign, to be honest, because it was what's eye-catching. It's what the children that engage with as well.
I'm going to ask another question from Charlotte Bradshaw, and then I'm going to just bring in Lindsay and Darren to see if they had any thoughts, anything they wanted to share following the presentation. So Charlotte says, great campaign, lovely idea. How much budget did you have to deliver the campaign and assets?
So initially, this is why I'll tell anybody that's running a campaign to just go with your just go with it, and pitch how you see it, and just see what kind of response you get. So initially I was given 10,000, and there was no way it could be increased. By the time that I'd done the trial of the campaign, and this was a 90,000 campaign, they went back and just kept asking for more and more, because I knew that they had the belief that this would work, and damn right it's working.
And that's the thing, isn't it? Once something works, it really kind of, that momentum builds. Darren, did you want to add any thoughts at this point at all?
Yeah, no, thanks, Dominic, and again, yeah, well done to Danielle, because it's brilliant, isn't it? And we can see why it won the Unaward, against a lot of competition. And I think for me, if you go through, Lindsay's checklist, it's just lots of ticks, isn't it, for your entry? So it's great to see. It's creative, and yes, £10,000. But if you look at that, in terms of the investment and the return on it, for how many children are back in school and hopefully, still back in school, that's massive, isn't it? It's a real issue with schools up and down the country at the moment, isn't it? So the investment is a drop in the ocean in terms of the positive outcomes from getting those children back into school. So yeah, it's brilliant. Well done.
Thank you. And yeah, absolutely. I think that's why I don't think I mentioned the check-in surveys that I did with the schools. They were key, just to make sure you're happy with what you've got. If there's anything that you would like adding to the campaign or taking away, what you're not using. So just making sure that we weren't just sending them stuff that they were not going to use. So the bear, for instance, which I'll hold my cards a little bit closer to my chest, because hopefully he can he can probably win us more rewards in the future. But one of the things that came back from those check-in surveys is that could we have some kind of mascot? And I was like, a mascot is like a nice to have, but it's not key. And I was like, so let's make him a key part of this. Let's make him something that isn't just a cute cuddly toy, but something that actually helps the children with their anxiety and with their worries. And it's very exciting to say that he is doing that. So just by having that key communication with the schools, that you don't just do that at the start and you don't just do that at the end, take them on the journey with you, because they're that audience and it's changing all the time.
Lindsay.
Yeah, everything Darren's just said, really. It's a really great campaign. It's the first time I've actually sat and listened through your presentation, Danielle, and I think it's really interesting. It's a very well thought through, well put together campaign that's I imagine has taken a lot of time and thought and energy to get absolutely right. And I two bits I particularly pick out that I think is what absolutely makes it is the co-creation. So easy for a council to just decide, well, this is what I think these kids would like, and impose it upon them. But the fact that you've worked with them and you've worked with the schools and parents, I just think is brilliant, and it makes a huge difference. And then the fact that you can prove its success. So I was kind of waiting at the end to see what you were going to come up with in terms of statistics, etc. But that figure about reducing absenteeism in the schools is absolutely enormous. And it makes me sort of wonder what's next for the campaign, and shouldn't other counties be thinking, well, why aren't we doing this? And you could be potentially rolling this out. And I guess just a quick question for you. I was thinking, would you do anything? I know this obviously wouldn't work for a secondary school audience, but is there a thought to do something of a similar nature but was age appropriate for secondary schools?
I'm just going to come in there quickly to say that Charlotte Bradshaw has asked that very exact question.
Okay.
So
sorry,
back
Charlotte.
to you, Danielle.
Great
Right.
minds.
So as I said from the beginning, it was about adapting the campaign from Key Stage 1. So Little Heroes Round 2 is Key Stage 1 and Key Stage 2 ready. So there's now two versions of the Helpful Heroes book to support the older students as well. And the secondary school campaign, I've just finished working on that, and so we are trialing that in October. So again, cards very close to my chest because it's just being trialed, but yes, we are doing something soon. And just so then it's tied in with the campaign, it's called the I'm Here campaign. I'm very excited to trial that with our secondary schools, ready for the big launch in the new year. So fingers crossed that is one that he's working on. But yes, we knew straight away that as soon as we're doing something in primary schools, something in secondary schools is needed. And yeah, completely different, but just tying it in with the same themes. But yeah, I've been working with the secondary school students as well.
Really excited to hear about that. I'm just going to bring in Darren on this one and then come back to you, Danielle. So, question from Kira Lynch about just saying well done. And how long was the planning process? How many members of the team were involved in development and delivery? And did you have any internal pushback? So, just firstly, I just wanted to bring Darren in on that one, just to talk about, I suppose, what you notice with the kind of Unawards and stuff like that and things like that. I suppose any trends, anything that's worth sharing. I suppose also bringing in the point that Lindsay made about when to enter and things like that. I know some people leave it to the last minute, but it's not ideal.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Thank you. Every single year, despite me going on about it constantly for weeks and weeks and weeks, 50% of entries land in the last 48 hours. And it's happened every single year. And I always panic that not enough people have entered. And then the last 2 days, there's a deluge. And there is something about us comms people that we do like a deadline, don't we? And some of us actually work better to a deadline. But I would say start it as soon as you can. Don't put yourself under pressure. Even just 10 or 15 minutes, just crowdsourcing a few ideas of a colleague, scribbling down, do a mind map, just gathering your information, because, as Lindsay said and Danielle's just proven, it will be about some of the data and the stats and proving the outcomes. We see some amazing work that comes through and visually looks stunning, and you think, I love it, I want it to win. But then it isn't always backed up with the data. And so it's about, what was the start point? What was the end point? So I think very much about that. Yeah, don't leave it too late. But having said that, if it's the final day, Tuesday, the 28th of October, don't not enter, because there have been people that have entered on the final day and spent just 30 minutes on it who have won. So, it can happen. But I would say, yeah, give yourself a bit of a breather and plan it if you can.
I'm going to come back to you in a second, Lindsay, about data and outcomes. But in the meantime, just to come to you, Danielle, on that question about how long was the planning process, how many members of the team were involved in development delivery, and did you have any internal pushback, which I thought was a really interesting additional point at the end.
Okay, so the objective was first brought to me. So the first time I asked about this campaign was in February last year. And then it was being trialled by Easter. So again, making it very timely and making sure after the Easter holidays that this was being trialled with those 19 schools. In terms of members of the team, I was a one-man band. Apart from my line manager that would just kind of check everything and making sure everything is proofread, had very close support in that field. But yes, I was a one-man band in terms of writing everything and getting everything designed and getting everything out the door, which I think it can be a little bit crazy in terms of what some people may think, but I think that's why it's so close to my heart. And when it is yours, you can tell and you look after it so much better. I think it's not just something that you gaze over. It's no, this needs to run and it needs to be the same language, and working with those schools were key. So in terms of our mini team, if you like, so it was myself for comms, it was one person from the school attendance team. Then we had the head of school attendance that oversaw everything, my line manager that oversaw everything comms wise to make sure everything was spell checked. And then we had someone from the EBSA team, so the emotionally based school avoidance, so to make sure we was using the right language with the children and the right type of colours as well, which was very tricky when you're trying to juggle brand and making sure that I wasn't using any colours that could trigger anything to set off any ADHD or autism, making everything very friendly for the children. So yeah, the key and most important people in that group were all there, and I think it was great because sometimes you can have too many cooks in the kitchen, and everyone wants to put their 10 pence in, if you like. So we made it very small but very mighty, and we worked very well together, and that's why we're on to round 2.
That's such a good point, actually, that sometimes design by committee can be actually the worst thing for a campaign, especially with human behaviour, especially when you've got like educational psychologists on board, as you did, who know what to do to change behaviour. Lindsay, do you just want to, I think it was Darren was just talking about outcomes and data and stuff like that. Did you just want to reiterate the point about outcomes? Because I think that's just so important to always have in the back of your mind when you're entering an award.
Yeah, sure. And just to answer Darren's point earlier about the sort of, drafting it in 30 minutes, that is possible. But I think it's possible only if that person or that team has done a really great campaign plan and delivered a really great campaign in the first place. And what that means is that they have built in their monitoring and their evaluation throughout, and they've captured that data as they've gone along. So then it becomes almost like a desktop exercise of just sitting down for 30 minutes and pulling it all together. So I guess what I'm saying in a roundabout way is, if you do your campaign planning really, really well, and you do make sure that you have a real focus on capturing data as you go through, which can also be really helpful for lots of other reasons. So you can see what's working and what isn't working, as Danielle has done, and you can pivot to the things that are working. So it's important for all sorts of reasons, and it's hugely important to do a great campaign plan, not just so you're going to win an award, but because you're going to do a great campaign. In terms of sort of very specifically data capture and outputs and outcomes, etc., as I said in my presentation, I like to use the GCS framework. I think they've updated it recently, so they also kind of capture learnings along the way and how you then use that to improve. But it's definitely worth looking at that. Dominic, I don't know if you want to put a link up to that on the Government Communication Services website. But that ought to be incorporated in, and it looks at your outputs, your outtakes, your outcomes, and the impact for your organisation. And if you can start to measure impact, I think that's a brilliant thing to be able to do, because then you can also go back to your senior managers and say, well, that £10,000 that you put into my campaign has had this impact. So how much does it cost for a primary school child to not be at school? If you can add that cost up, you can present a really strong business case for further investment into any communications activity that you're doing. So it's good for the team, and it's also having some great outcomes.
Thank you. That's a neat way to wrap up. So I'm just going to ask Danielle and Darren for final thoughts, and then I think we will wrap up the session, and thank everyone for joining. So Danielle, any final thoughts for anyone, particularly anyone who's thinking of entering the behaviour change category this year of the Unawards?
Well, I've just noticed that I didn't answer the final bit of that question, so I'll answer that first, because I can understand about any internal pushback. I would say not really, because we took the right people on that journey. So as soon as we had the support from the counsellor, the head of school attendance, and then in that time we also had a new director of children and families. So I think you've got the top dogs in there. You don't really have that pushback, and when they see it working as well. And I think, for a shout out to the Unawards as well, as soon as I won awards for it, got no pushback on budget for the following year, because it was just like, as soon as I could call it an award-winning campaign that works, it was like, yeah, you can just have the same budget for next year, crack on, you know what you're doing. It was just nice to have that belief, to be honest. I would say, for anyone thinking of entering awards, just do it, because it's only going to take you time. And it's been a great experience for me. I said just before this, I absolutely hate public speaking, and I've done so much public speaking ever since, because people just want to pick your brain about your work. But it's great experience, and it does actually build your confidence over time. So yeah, just have a bit of faith, and yeah, if you don't win, you get some nice pizza. So just come and enjoy.
Excellent. I'm just going to go straight to Darren now, I think.
Follow that, yeah. You've made me hungry mentioning pizza. I think that's the whole point of awards, isn't it? And particularly with the Unawards, for me, it's about the recognition for people like you that we know do amazing work up and down the country every day, every week, every month, and often with very little recognition. And it's really important that we do recognise it. And the fact that I suppose there's an added bonus, not necessarily the reason why you do it, but I think it helps with your profile as well. So you are better known this year than you were last year, probably because you've been doing the rounds talking about this, and it's brilliant to see. So I love it, and it's almost the best bit of the awards themselves is the spotlight it puts on talented people and raises their profile. So yeah, I'm really glad that that's happened for you. So yeah, I suppose really final quick words. First, the delivery hasn't come, so that's the first thing. So I'm annoyed about that. So Royal Mail need to go on your behaviour change course, Dominic. So talking of which, Dominic runs some brilliant workshops on behaviour change. So I'd absolutely recommend and endorse those. I've seen Dominic in action. It's definitely worth doing. I think the first one starts 2nd of October, and it's across 3 mornings via Teams. So I think we can share the website, probably be in the email that goes out to people. But if you can get yourself onto one of Dominic's courses, because I'm not just saying it because he's here, they are really useful and valuable, and I would definitely recommend them. So yeah, that's it from me.
And I just wanted to say thank you so much to Danielle, to Lindsay, and to Darren. So do get entering the Unawards. All the details are in the chat. Send those round in an email as well. If you need help with awards, Lindsay's the person to speak to. And it sounds like, I think Danielle, sounds like it's going to be shared across all of the local authorities on the call and wall. And certainly we've got some takers. I think the parents of the call are going to be using it as well. So just in terms of housekeeping, I'm sure we'll send around the slides. I'll send around the recording, and this event will be eligible for CPD points if you're a CIPR member. And also myself, Lindsay and Darren are going to be talking about all things housing and comms in a few weeks' time. So I hope to see you, team. And thank you to everyone for giving up your lunchtime, and see you at another session soon.